Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
Republicans always said how much they love competition, love the competition, love the free market, and yet you look around industry after industry, handful of companies control the vast majority of activity in that industry. I've been hearing undercurrents that there's maybe they dug up Teddy Roosevelt, and maybe the ghost of Teddy Roosevelt is back, and we're going to start doing some trust busting. Let it begin. But I loved her statement. In her written statement, she said, "We all know the simple rule: if you see something, say something." As an antitrust lawyer, a corporate one, I counseled clients to avoid trouble by knowing when to object and how to exit. When my clients attended trade association gatherings, I advised them to leave quickly if discussions with competitors took a wrong turn and raised alarm bells about price fixing, because they do that in the back rooms. They don't do that at trade association shows. Or other illegal activities, she writes. Make a noisy exit. Say, spill a pitcher of water, so that the attendees remember that you objected and that you left. Although serving as FTC commissioner has been the highest honor of my professional career, I must follow my own advice and resign in the face of continuing lawlessness. Consider this my noisy exit. Well, good. Bye. And I hope what this means is that the Federal Trade Commission is going to stop these massive conglomerates from continuing to form and going and breaking some of them up. Now, trust me, Miss Wilson, she has a lucrative gig all lined up. I guarantee it. And I got to tell you, this smells to me like a fundraising letter. This smells to me like, hey, wherever she's landing, her job is going to raise funds to fight the quote unquote the good fight. Fighting against what we should have been doing all along, and that's breaking up these big conglomerates, stopping the mass consolidation of industry after industry. But here's the thing, and this is where I'm happy to a point, but I know big money always wins. Big money always puts itself ahead of human misery or tragedy. Always. Suffering, doesn't matter. We know corporations and the wealthy, we know they get what they want all the time. And they use distractions and division to get it. Yesterday, we had another mass shooting. This time, students at Michigan State University were the victims. And all the right and the Lauren Boeberts of the world, all they could talk about today was balloons and Buttigieg. That's it. Not a mention of they're not even doing thoughts and prayers anymore. There's none of that. Because I think the rest of us, agree with the state representative in Michigan and blank your thoughts and prayers was his comment. But I look at this and I go, again, it's not about helping people. It's about continuing to spew the division. Josh Hawley today, for instance, unfurled his plan to ban all kids under 16 years of age from having a social media account. But he's from a state where there's no age limit on when you can own a gun. So can't have Twitter, can't have name the TikTok or any Instagram or any of them, but you can have a gun. Now remember, just last week the Missouri House, they voted. It's just one of those things you go. They had a vote on whether kids could carry a open weapon, open carry, without parental consent. So much for parental rights. Any age, no parental age. And you go, huh? Again, it's about division because that gun issue's got to be there because the moneyed interests want us pitted against each other, want us divided because, hey, if we were to actually solve problems, how could they make money? Because look, right now, the fact that Biden mentioned the assault weapons ban in his State of the Union, gun industry thrilled. They're selling guns like never before. And the thing is, it comes back to this moment where big money always wins. The big lobbyists always win. Everywhere you look, division for profit. Look at Ohio right now. The conspiracy theorists are all a Twitter. I joked about this not too long ago. That someone believes that Biden signed an executive order to have this derailment. So, but my thought was it would be that we would stop looking at the balloons. So we need a distraction. We need the false flag. This conspiracy, no, they've gone even further. Biden made this happen so that all of the cancer that these people are going to get from this spill and the burning off of this spill and all of this stuff will not be because of the spill. No, it will be because of the COVID shots. This is how they work. Evidently, according to them, the COVID clot shot is going to give them all cancer. They're all going to die of cancer. So we're all going to die. I'm going to die of cancer from the shot. But it's going to be because, well, that spill, a couple 100 miles from here, it all came this way, and that's going to be it. And this is how they divide us. And again, I keep coming back to the reality is behind all of this nonsense, behind all of this idiocracy is corporate greed. Do you really think the CEO of Norfolk Southern, do you think the CEO of the gun groups, do you think the CEOs of any of the industries in this country, do you think they really care about the people of East Palestine or East Lansing or East wherever? Do you think, or West wherever? Do you think they really care? No, they care about the bottom line. They care about feeding their pockets. They care about lining their pockets. I look at that thing, the derailment. This is something we've been talking about for a while. We've been talking about precision scheduled railroading on this show for a while. I've been talking about the assault on rail workers for over a decade now. It first came to me in 2013 when we were doing our labor history tour. And we ended up out in I think it was in Kansas City, where one of the unions there were going, "Have you heard of this?" And I'm going, "What? They want to go down to one person on a train?" And he goes, "Yeah. Eventually they want to go down to no people on a train." And all of the assaults that have been going on from that time till now, these unions and these workers have been saying, look, conditions are getting worse. Our ability to do our job getting worse. We've been talking to these workers for years. We've been talking to their unions about the conditions on the railroad. Nobody's listening. And look, I was as angry as anyone when President Biden and some Democrats, along with virtually every Republican, backdoored those workers who were saying, hey, look, we want sick days. Hey, we want some say. We want more power in the workplace over our conditions. They warned us. They were warning us. They were telling us. And look, this again, big money tops human pain and suffering and misery and disaster all the time. Because look what's going on right now. It's reported that the railroads out there offering people, inconvenience fee money. And from some of the people that I've heard, it comes with a you're a non-disclosure. You're not gonna talk about this. You're not gonna sue us. Understand, their lawyers are working overtime right now. And again, it comes back to big money. Big money tops suffering and pain and misery every time. You've seen this happen time and time again. This is not new. It's not new. The big business interests supersede the needs, wants, and the will of we the working people. Not surprising. Now, again, I go back to the conditions on the railroad we've been talking about. This precision scheduled railroading, these workers having no life whatsoever, exhausted most of the time, no family life, no sick days. We've been talking about this for a while. We've been talking about the fact that they've cut tens of thousands of workers over the last couple of decades. We've been talking about the fact that, you know what? The safety inspections aren't what they used to be. when I heard they have to do a 120-point inspection in 90 seconds, you can't even look at, you can't honestly look at anything in 90 seconds. As someone who every time he takes a truck out on the road does at least a 15 to 18, most of the time 30-minute pre-trip of 18 wheels, can you imagine a 5-mile long train? And again, this is the reason I'm such a strong believer in labor unions. The fact that these workers were out there raising the bells, sounding the alarms, telling the stories, warning us. And again, we didn't listen. And look, both Democrats and Republicans, again, sided with big money. There's a lot of blame to go around. So everyone's going, gee, I wonder why corporate America is not, the corporate media is not hounding on this. Because they're all in this. This, again, is one of those moments where you go, which side are you on? Are you on the side of the money or on the side of the people who get screwed over by the moneyed interests? And I look at the comments on the social media platforms, and look, I think Josh Hawley should just ban social media because it's bad to begin with, because we are our worst versions of ourselves. The experiment has failed. We can't handle it at any age, 16, 18, 25, it doesn't matter. The reality here, again, I come back to the reason I'm such a strong supporter of unions is these workers, they were out there, they had it right. They were out there sounding the alarms. And we silenced them. We allowed them to be silenced. Now here's the thing. And you go, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is if these people didn't have unions, we would have never heard anything. Because you think about industry after industry where these kind of conditions and these kind of things happen and you never hear a peep. So for me, the reality in this, it's time to start holding these big corporations and the moneyed interests, holding them accountable. Stop with the divisive stuff. And at least on this, where I think everyone in the town of East Palestine is now looking at each other going, it doesn't matter, red hat, blue hat. We're all breathing the same poison air. Our houses are contaminated with all the same crap. And all of them are going to get the screw job. Red, blue, doesn't matter. Again, the only color in my mind that ever really matters is green. And the sooner we pick up on that, maybe the safer we're going to be. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'll take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425.
If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our labor history in 2 segments. And you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. You know, generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So our quote of the day from Nikki Haley. She's back. Yeah, Nikki Haley's back. She says, you should know something about me. I don't put up with bullies. When you kick back, it hurts them more if you're wearing heels. Now, this is a common line. You may remember she said this about unions a couple years ago about keeping those unions out of South Carolina while she was talking to the Walmart executives, because she said that she wears heels and then they hurt when she kicks. Yeah, again, for people who keep saying that they don't believe in violence, sure there. Now here's something interesting. I saw a story over at the New York Times, caught my attention, talking about the balloon, since the balloon is still on everyone's mind. And I come back to what I said from the very beginning. What I said in the very beginning about this is the Chinese just testing us. It isn't about information that they can gather because they can get it from Google Earth or wherever. It's testing us, and we failed. And in this article over at the New York Times, they write that while many in the world see the Chinese spy balloon as a sign of Beijing's growing aggressiveness, China has sought to cast the controversy as a symptom of the United States' irrevocable decline. Why else would a great power be spooked by a flimsy inflatable craft, China has argued, if not for a raft of internal problems like an intensely divided society, intractable partisan strife, driving President Biden to act tough on Beijing. And I said this from the beginning. This was to get our attention and to see how we would react. Whereas in generations past, this would have never even made the news. Now, we're going to have hearings. Oh boy, hearings on the balloon. So the balloon isn't going to go away. Evidently, Montana Senator John Tester, he's going to lead the investigation on why it took so long. And yet what we find out is what I said from the beginning. They're literally reporting now that they have been tracking it since it took off. They were following it when it got into the air. And again, this is why we spend gazillions of dollars on military technology. This is why we starve children and don't give health care and education to people, because we've got a military that can literally track something as they're building the damn thing. And yet, you got Marjorie Trainwreck out there with a big giant balloon like a kid going to the circus, all smiles, look at me, how cute I am. We failed this. We have failed this badly because, again, we are this divided. This was an issue that I said from the beginning, not a big deal. This shouldn't have been a big deal. Oh, let's calm down. The military is paying attention. Trust me. They're gathering information. Oh, gee, what do we find out? They were gathering information. The common sense of our society, wow. And again, I go back to Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley, your bill, maybe just ban social media completely, because clearly we're not capable of using it properly or using it. Again, the worst versions of ourselves, because the troll farms, because they do have these massive troll farms who are just throwing stuff out there to cause division. And maybe it's time we stop. Issue after issue. The balloon, Social Security. Just today, Rick Scott was on one of the F channels talking about how his proposed saving of Social Security and Medicare was to give Congress the ability every year to make cuts. He compared Social Security to the military budget. He goes, every year we talk about cutting the military budget because we don't have a 40-year military budget or a 100-year plan. And I love this. He said, if you don't support a 100-year defense plan, you're cutting defense spending. And you go, they're very different. Social Security is set up in a way that is supposed to take care of people in their old age. We actually have people who are smart people who say this is what we need, actuaries who figure this stuff out, life expectancy, when people retire, how much money we need. There's a bunch of that. Social Security is our only real safety net program in this country to take care of the indigent, to take care of the elderly, to take care of the disabled. Because clearly the Senate is never going to do anything with Rick Scott in there that's going to help people. But what's interesting is they cried, screamed, we would never cut it. And again, I go back to what I said yesterday. Don't you accuse us of saying that thing that we said. Here's Rick Scott, talking about every year, well, we should reevaluate. No, you shouldn't. You should have a plan in place like insurance companies and actuaries actually do when they figure this stuff out. You should have smart people doing this instead of Rick Scott, who, I got to tell you, as a CEO, Not a good record. Not a good record. Not a good record for people. Good record for him. He made lots of money, huge amounts of money. One of the wealthiest guys in the Senate. But for the people that, well, he screwed over, don't know. Also, Ron Johnson. Again, don't you accuse me of saying that thing that I said. Ron Johnson was on a radio program talking about how Social Security is a legal Ponzi scheme. And not just a legal Ponzi scheme, but an irresponsible legal Ponzi scheme. So we're now equating, Social Security to Bernie Madoff. Instead of it being the anti-poverty program that it was set up to be, the safety net that was supposed to be there, this is what Republicans have done. Now remember the State of the Union. Come with me if you will. Oh my gosh, they were aghast. How dare you say that I would want to cut Social Security? Why would you say such a thing? When 3/4 of the House signed on to the Republican Study Committee's report that in the upcoming budget for 2023, one of the things that they would do in their blueprint to save America was to raise the eligibility age of Social Security, which means a cut for you, and propose cuts in the benefit formula, what they're calling modernizing. Just modernizing it. We're not cutting it. No, we're not cutting it. No, we're just modernizing it. Changing the benefit for anyone under 54. So fortunately, I'm going to get beyond that. So screw you young people. You're all in. You get nothing. This is what they're trying to do. And, some means testing, some work requirements. So that means, if your wife doesn't work, they're going to screw her out of any Social Security in the event that I pass. Congratulations. Love the family. And my favorite part is they're going to divert a part of the Social Security money into private accounts called retirement freedom. Again, this was not a retirement account. This was an anti-poverty program. This is one of the three legs of the stool of retirement. Pension from the years you worked, some savings that you squirreled away, and Social Security. Now, they've destroyed the pension system. The defined benefit's gone. They've destroyed your ability to save because wages have been declining and stagnant for 40 years. And even now with inflation, it's still being eaten away. And they've done nothing to help workers organize and fight for the billions and billions and billions of profit. And now they want to screw you over on Social Security. But hey, they didn't say that. No, don't you dare. Don't you dare accuse me what we wrote down in our blueprint to save America. Don't you dare. It's incredible. Incredible. Quick break. Right back. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1918. That was the day 300 commercial laundresses in Kansas City walked off the job demanding a union. Male laundry delivery drivers successfully organized the previous summer. They joined the women on the picket lines. The Employers Association had financed an open shop drive since the beginning of the war. The laundry companies refused to grant wage increases to the drivers. They also refused to acknowledge the women's demand for a union. The Women's Trade Union League tried to hold hearings about the strike at the Hotel Muehlbach, but the hotel refused to allow striking black workers into the building. As a result, their white co-workers refused to testify. When the hearings were finally moved, the women told of intolerable conditions. Laundresses complained of filthy workplaces and potential fire traps. They reported that laundry owners had put together their own private police force. These guns for hire assaulted women strikers, breaking one woman's arm, another's wrist, and injuring many more in hopes of deterring them from pressing on with their demands. In the 6th week of the strike, 25,000 more Kansas City workers called a general strike. According to historian Maureen Weiner Greenwald, they supported the laundry workers' demands for increased wages, union recognition, and enforcement of state regulations regarding hours and working conditions. Greenwald notes the general strike was relatively peaceful until the Kansas City Railway attempted to run streetcars with scab labor. Finally, the laundry companies agreed to union recognition and later promised wage increases. They soon reneged, but the show of solidarity among workers provided key lessons for future labor struggles in Kansas City. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2.
There are industries that occasionally do something rotten. And there are industries like big oil, big pharma, and big tobacco that persistently do rotten things. Then there is the nursing home industry, where rottenness has become a core business principle. The end-of-life experience can be rotten enough on its own, with an assortment of natural indignities bedeviling us, and good nursing homes help gentle this time. In the past couple of decades, though, an entirely unnatural force has come to dominate the delivery of aged care. Profiteering corporate chains and Wall Street speculators. The very fact that this essential and sensitive social function, which ought to be the domain of health professionals and charitable enterprises, is now called an industry, reflects a total perversion of its purpose. Some 70% of nursing homes are now corporate operations run by absentee executives who have no experience in nursing homes and who are guided by the market imperative of maximizing investor profits. They constantly demand, quote, efficiencies from their facilities, which invariably means reducing the number of nurses, which invariably reduces care, which means more injuries, illness, and deaths. As one nursing expert rightly says, it's criminal. But it's not against the law, since the industry's lobbying front, a major donor to congressional campaigns, effectively writes the law, which allows corporate hustlers to provide only one nurse on duty no matter how many patients are in the facility. When a humane nurse staffing requirement was proposed last year, the lobbying group furiously opposed it, and Congress dutifully bowed to industry profits over Grandma's decent end time. After all, Granny doesn't make campaign contributions. This is Jim Hightower saying, so, as a health policy analyst bluntly puts it, the only kind of groups that seem to be interested in investing in nursing homes are bad actors. To help push for better, contact theconsumervoice.org.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So the reality is, every time we talk about the infrastructure bill, I get the blowback from the troll farm saying, "Well, I don't see anything being built." And look, I don't know that they're getting it out the door fast enough. I'm hoping that we start seeing this spring and into summer massive numbers of orange cones. God, I hate orange cones. But also the fact that, when we're rebuilding, we make all that stuff here. This could be a really big summer, and I'm hoping it is. And here to share some thoughts on, are we seeing the rollout fast enough? Are we seeing, what we're hoping comes out of this infrastructure bill? And are we touting our own horn? Are we talking enough about it? I've asked my good friend Scott Paul to come share some thoughts. Scott's the president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing, AmericanManufacturing.org, the website. Scott, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick, great to be with you tonight.
So, I'm looking at this and, are we seeing the rollout of this fast enough? I know, during the Obama years, we heard about a lot of shovel-ready projects, and people were saying, well, we didn't get enough out of that. Are we seeing something different this time?
I would say yes, to some extent we are. I think that the administration has been careful about rolling this out so that it's not haphazard and that truly priority projects are getting funded. But you've seen tangible examples of this already. You saw, Biden with Sherrod Brown, Mitch McConnell of all people, at the bridge over the Ohio River between Cincinnati and northern Kentucky, that's getting rebuilt. You've seen him in Baltimore and in the New York City area. I'm talking about tunnels for rail. Golden Gate Bridge is another iconic bridge that's getting some reconstruction money. So it is happening. It is happening out there, and I'll show you other tangible examples as well in broadband and in EV charging networks, both of which are funded through the infrastructure bill.
Right.
In broadband, you've seen Corning announce a new factory in Arizona and scale up its employment in North Carolina. And by the way, in North Carolina, those are steelworker union jobs because of the broadband rollout, which is going to need fiber optic cable. You've seen EV charging network companies scale up dramatically in the United States. I mean, there's, God, I think like a dozen that have established operations in the United States in anticipation of the EV charging network money coming out, which, by the way, I think is going to be announced tomorrow. But that is well underway with a very ambitious goal to build out that network along interstate highways to reduce issues with respect to access and to range anxiety. So I guess, honestly, Rick, and you've also seen Republican members who voted against the infrastructure bill tout projects being funded in their states for road construction or widening. Or
well, I mean, the shot at the State of the Union that the president gave out. You didn't vote for it, but I'll see you at the opening or the groundbreaking. I thought that was brilliant.
Right, and so the it's interesting because when reporters follow up with some of these Republicans who are saying, "Hey, didn't you vote against this?" and their typical answer is like, "Well, I supported this. I didn't support other things in the bill, but you had to just vote up or down," and it's kind of a pretty lame excuse. But the answer is it's coming, and here's the last point that I'll make. The other thing about getting this right is the Made in America aspects of it, which Biden focused on in his State of the Union. We talked about that last week, right after the State of the Union address. To make sure that those Buy America requirements are attached to it. And that is important. And I will say some agencies are doing better than others.
Yeah. Now, I was going to ask you about that because I saw your piece over at the Columbus Dispatch, which, again, we need to be talking about if we're going to be doing all of this investment, if we're going to be doing all these roads and bridges and broadband and all this stuff, shouldn't we have the supply chain here at home to make this stuff? And again, I go back to domestic production for domestic consumption. We've got to not allow that to be watered down. And that was really the crux of what your piece over at the Dispatch was.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, it starts with, there's been a Made in America requirement for roads and bridges and transit systems since the 1980s, and that requires iron and steel to be melted and poured in the United States that's used in those projects. And so there is a baseline for all of this, but there's obviously a dramatic expansion of it. There's expansion for the materials. Now we're covering not only steel, iron, and some other manufactured goods. We're covering drywall and the lumber and the fiber optic cable and other aluminum and copper and other construction materials that are used in school buildings or in other things that are going to be built out using this. And so, some agencies are doing this faster than others, and I'm just going to say, the interests that oppose this are the contractors who like to bring in the dumped products so that they can get a better margin for the public works projects that they're bidding on, and the states and localities who view it as a nuisance to kind of have to monitor all of this stuff, even though they're getting a lot more money because of the infrastructure bill, and they want the money without any of the responsibility, which is also kind of ridiculous. And then foreign countries and importers oppose this well, saying, well, this should be more open to our products. Even though, as Biden pointed out during the State of the Union address, we are perfectly within our trade rights to have this Made in America requirement. And so, we've seen uneven rollout from the agencies. Like I think the EV charging example is a good one because I think that's where they've done a pretty good job. I think for the clean water systems, I think the EPA has done a pretty good job. But I think others have been kind of captured by these special interests and tied into knots. But I do know this, Rick, and I will say it, that Biden means this. He really does. And so I know he's putting the heat on his cabinet secretaries to get this done, and is trying to educate them. And the challenge we face is this, and I'll just give an example of something that came up during a hearing. The HUD secretary, Marcia Fudge, who is a former member of Congress from Cleveland, was asked about Buy America by a member of Congress, and she said, "Well, we don't make enough steel here to satisfy this, so we've got to proceed." And here's the problem: she represented a district that had a massive steel mill in it that is adding jobs all the time now, and should be super familiar with this. But these are the talking points that they get from the other special interests and kind of the bureaucracy that's been entrenched that don't like anything new. And so I realize that some people respond not well to kind of like new policy and whatever, but they're also getting a boatload of money. And so the absolute minimum is say, look, one of the reasons why you're getting all this money is because there is this Made in America requirement that's attached to it. So get on it. And I think Biden's doing a good job of that, but his bureaucracy kind of has to catch up.
I got to tell you, that's really distressing to hear. Someone from Cleveland who lived through the closures of Republic and J&L and what happened at LTV and all of this. It's really distressing to hear that she doesn't get it. And for me, I got to be honest. This is why I like Biden so much. And I've been attacked from every direction on this. I feel that he's undoing 40, 50 years of neoliberal kind of policies and really getting us back to, his childhood, if you will. Getting back to when, there was the factory down the road that families, that fathers worked at and now hopefully mothers work at. That there was that community around building something that you used and that there was pride in that. I think he understands what we found out as we were traveling through the 8 states during our Working Class Heroes tours, as we went to those places who used to be something, used to be where we made stuff, and that pride seems to be gone. How come we're not getting that message out? More importantly than just, we're going to spend some extra money on this or that, but really talking about, how we're going to rebuild that pride that once was, that my grandparents' generation, that they built.
Yeah. Well, look, it's a lot easier to talk about the problems than the solutions or the good stories. And you see this more broadly where, there have been some layoffs in tech, and I don't want to diminish how that lands with people who are impacted. But at the same time that's happening, we added like 500,000 jobs in the economy in January. And so it's true that there have been some high profile layoffs, but there's also a massive amount of hiring going on in the economy. And it's the same thing with this, is that we have seen a record amount of investment in American factories over the last 2 years because of obviously macro and economic factors like, wow, there was a pandemic and we had supply chain problems, so maybe it's a good idea to locate more production here, and also the actions of the Chinese government that have prompted that, but also public policy here, like these Made in America requirements, or the infrastructure bill, or the clean energy resources, or the semiconductor manufacturing resources that are being provided. So there's intent to all of this, but it's a lot easier to talk about and get headlines for things like inflation or what have you, which, by the way, is coming down,
right,
than it is for all of this. And so I think Biden and the team understand that, because you know this, the poll numbers about this stuff are ridiculously low. Like, no one knows about this yet. And so I think that he and his trusted communicators are going to be out there spending a lot of time talking about these kitchen table issues, along with protecting healthcare, Medicare, Social Security. But I think that this is going to be a repeated theme. And the great thing about this, Rick, is that in communities like I had that piece in the Columbus Dispatch, you go to Columbus, you're going to get stories about Intel opening up a massive new factory in the area. And you can see that in so many markets around the country that, I think it's going to land there better than it is on kind of the cable news chatter.
No, you got that right.
Yeah.
And I understand you guys are doing a letter campaign to reach out to Congress. People can go and sign up and get more information. Tell me about the Made in America infrastructure action you've got going on.
Yeah, so we had this big success about about getting the Buy America requirements for this $1.2 trillion of infrastructure money. The agencies are starting to implement it, and the states need to do that as well. And so we're telling our activists that, hey, look, there's a lot at stake here. We got one shot to get this right, so make sure your governors, your transportation officials are following the letter of the law. And instead of, again, listening to those special interests that they have to deal with a lot, the contractors or the importers, that they are following the Build America, Buy America requirements, and they're being held accountable for it. Because we know that both Republican, Democratic voters, 83%, support these requirements. It's about as high a poll number as you're going to get for anything in politics these days.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot at stake, and we want to make sure that governors and the heads of the transportation departments in the state know that we're watching and that we're going to support their efforts if they're implementing the law, and we're going to hold them accountable if they're not.
And we'll get links out on social media. People can sign up for that, or just go to americanmanufacturing.org, and you can find it from there. Lastly, I wanted to finish up with this idea that you brought up about the Made in America part. I kind of look at governors or local officials with this the same way I see them with prevailing wage. The idea that we shouldn't be just looking for the cheapest way to get something done, that we should be looking at the most cost-effective and what's best for society. And look, you can get cheap transient labor to come through and slap something together in a really shoddy way that can come tumbling down. Hey, you got it done. I see this kind of in the same vein. So for me, the conversation has to be one of education as well, and talking about it's just not the cheapest bottom line number. It's the most beneficial use of resources. Right. I think, or is there a better way of framing that?
No, I think you're exactly right about it. And again, these things like prevailing wage or other, Buy America or other what we would call performance requirements that come along with these resources are critically important, because the goal of infrastructure is not only to provide that physical asset that's going to be there for everybody in the future, whether that's broadband or clean water systems or EV charging networks or better roads, better bridges, better transit systems, and what have you. But it's also about the economic activity that's created around that. So when you're constructing it, that you're using project labor agreements, prevailing wage to go along, so that you're not undermining good job efforts, which I think are very important in this day and age. Or when you're sourcing the materials, that you're doing it in a way that's going to encourage insourcing, jobs coming into the United States instead of outsourcing.
Yep.
And there's lots of unfortunate examples of where we've done that with infrastructure in the past, like the Bay Bridge, which we've talked about in California, where it was made in China. And it cost the opportunity to stand up a fabricating facility on the West Coast that would employ thousands of workers. And it gave China capabilities that China didn't have before in terms of bridge construction technology. And so there's all these considerations that I think are very important. And, when you're able to talk to governors about it, then they kind of, many of them get it, I think, Rick. And so that's our hope here, that we'll be able to drive this home.
That is the hope, and enforcement. But Scott, I appreciate the time. Again, I hope folks will go to americanmanufacturing.org, sign up for the action to have things made here in the U.S. As we're rebuilding our infrastructure and investing in the future. Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. Appreciate the time.
Hey, Rick, great to be with you, as always. Thanks so much for the work that you do.
Thanks so much. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, Rick at thericksmithshow.com. Quick break, right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1818. That was the day that abolitionist Frederick Douglass chose to celebrate his birthday. He could not be sure of the exact date of his birth because he was born into slavery. He escaped from slavery and became one of the leading black writers and orators for the cause of abolition. After the Civil War, he continued to speak and write, demanding justice for African Americans and working people. For example, in 1871, he penned an article against increasing demands for cheap labor. He wrote, "Cheap labor is a phrase that has no cheering music for the masses. Those who demand it and seek to acquire it have but little sympathy with common humanity. It is the cry of the few against the many. When we inquire who are the men who are continually vociferating for cheap labor, we find the rich and powerful, the crafty and scheming, those who live by the sweat of other men's faces, and who have no intention of cheapening labor by adding themselves to the laboring forces of society. It is the deceitful cry of the fortunate against the unfortunate. Labor is a noble word and expresses a noble idea. Today, we still face a demand for ever cheaper labor. Business leaders and their political friends fight against efforts to raise the minimum wage. From 2011 to 2015, 8 states scaled back their prevailing wage laws, 19 reduced pensions, and 15 eroded collective bargaining rights. As these attacks on working people grow, it seems that Frederick Douglass's reminder that labor is a noble word is needed now more than ever.
We plant the food, we drive the cab, we load the ship.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So again, I look back to what Scott Paul was talking about, the fact that we're gonna source domestically the things that we need, so we know it's not going to be shoddy. Like we found out with the Bay Bridge out in California, that you got steel that half of it wasn't usable because it was garbage, and then poor craftsmanship and all down the line. I look at what's going on in Turkey right now. I don't know if you've noticed this, but there was a story day before yesterday that Turkish officials are detaining and holding contractors who built these buildings that all collapsed. There evidently 134 of these contractors who built buildings are being investigated. And look, when you have the number of deaths that they had, and the number of 12-story luxury buildings that collapsed down, you got to look at shoddy construction. Also reported possibly one of those contractors, the Trump Organization. So are you surprised? Now you go, this is what happens when you have people doing shoddy work, when the people who are building this stuff aren't living in that stuff. And it's all I've been saying for years. The guy who puts the roof on my kid's school, I want them to have a kid sitting in the seat next to my kid, so that roof isn't going to come tumbling down because they cut as many corners as possible, which is why I'm a supporter of prevailing wage and Buy American provisions. Just makes sense to me. Let's quick go to the phones. Got Alice on one. How we doing, Alice?
We're doing good. Wanted to say that I gather that some of the infrastructure money is going to be repairing some of the bridges in Pittsburgh.
That's the hope.
From what I'm hearing on the local news.
Yep. Well, we've got 46,000 structurally deficient bridges in this country. There's bound to be one in your backyard.
Oh, absolutely. They replaced the two main ones that we have to travel on. They've been replaced within the past 5 years, so that's a good thing. But yeah, I was hearing that, and there was something that was said about someone that I know that lives in Pittsburgh was saying that they're starting to do a lot of hiring. So apparently the money's starting to come out.
Oh, no, it is. Look, I can't get an electrician to do any electrical work as we're moving to a new studio space because all the electricians are working on, all of these different projects. In fact, they've got electricians coming from other areas to work in this area, according to the local union leader. There's nobody. There's literally nobody, and we're gonna have this crunch as the investment comes flowing out and people are doing these jobs. I don't know that we have enough yet. I know my trades friends say they're going to meet the demand because that's their attitude, the can-do spirit. But I gotta wonder because there's a lot to be done.
Well, there is, and one thing about it, it's trickling down, unlike the trickle-down voodoo economics. Have a good evening, Rick.
You too, thanks. No, she hits an interesting point. The trickle-down effect, this is the kind of, when people think of trickle-down, this is what they think of. You pay a worker a decent wage to build something in your community, and they live in that community. That money reverberates through the economy, and it does. It goes from their pocket to the local diner, to the local movie theater, to the local grocery store. It stays local, and they buy stuff. And if you have that local supply chain, it continues to grow and reverberate and continues to move around and create an economy like my grandparents' generation built. This is why I'm so thrilled with Joe Biden. Look, has he done everything I want him to do? No. Are there things he's really screwed up? Yeah, the railroad thing I think was a major screw up. But this is enormous. And this is why the moneyed interests are putting so much time and energy into attacking him, which is why the divisive stuff over balloons, because they got nothing else. When you start talking to working people about what he's actually doing, and when these jobs really start ramping up and these projects start going, and you start seeing those damn orange cones everywhere, no, Joe Biden did that. And then you could be angry for traffic. And I think Joe would take that because it means we're rebuilding stuff. And then when you get on the internet and you can actually make your angry tweets faster because, they invested in broadband, think about Joe. Joe did that. Not very hard to think about. And, the jobs that are going to come out of it, maybe the good quality infrastructure that's going to come out of it that's not going to go collapsing. Interesting. So for me, there's a lot to be excited about in this moment. And I know all we got to hear about is how the outrage machine is talking about inflation and talking about balloons and what other nonsense they come up with. But the reality is, the hope is working people are waking up. And the hope is that we start going, we're going to reclaim our communities. We're going to reclaim our manufacturing prowess. We're going to reclaim the middle class. And we're going to get it. We're going to get it back from the wealthy who have taken it from us. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You'll find ours. Right back.
We basically nuked the town with chemicals so we could get a railroad open.
Ohio residents sue over fiery chemical train derailment after governor's decision to release toxic chemicals. Exxon drops its algae biofuel charade. Plus,
are you excited about buying an electric vehicle but worried that it could leave you unsatisfied?
Electric vehicles dominate Super Bowl car ads, signaling a potential culture shift.
Emphasis on potential. All of those stories and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Netflix is joining in by including more EVs in their movies and shows. It's the least they can do.
It's the very least they can do. We'll take what we can get. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, what's going on in Ohio is not getting nearly enough coverage from the national news. Essentially, they have poisoned thousands of people, it seems to me.
Yes, it does. Cleanup is underway in East Palestine, Ohio, after last week's massive toxic chemical train derailment and fire, and officials' decision to burn off the train's flammable cargo in a controlled release operation to avert the risk of an even larger explosion.
Controlled release of toxic chemicals.
Residents have been allowed to return to their homes, but at least 4 class action lawsuits have been filed, seeking damages and to force the railroad railroad company Norfolk Southern to provide free health care monitoring amid reports of dead farm animals, birds, and fish in downstream areas and concerns about long-term exposure. The fiery derailment has renewed calls to upgrade railroad safety in the wake of staffing cuts implemented by the railroad industry and the Trump administration's rollback of Obama-era regulations tightening safety standards for trains carrying highly explosive liquids. On Monday, the Environmental Protection Agency identified 3 additional highly toxic chemicals released by the derailment and confirmed that some of the chemicals have been detected in the air and surface waters of the Ohio River Basin, but below thresholds that would trigger public health concerns.
The people who live there seem to be very concerned, and yet Governor Mike DeWine told everyone to just go on back. Everything was fine. Everything was safe. It seems that it was anything but.
In other news, last week, oil giant Shell posted all-time record profits of $42 billion in 2022.
Hey.
This week, environmental law firm Client Earth filed a climate lawsuit with England's highest court against all 11 individual members of Shell's board of directors.
Aww.
The first of its kind suit accuses the individuals of failing to manage the company's climate risks and, quote, breaching company law by failing to implement an energy transition strategy that aligns with the landmark 2015 Paris Agreement.
Company law? Do companies have laws?
Apparently they do.
Well, and I guess they're willing to violate those as well.
Oil giant Exxon also reported record-shattering profits.
Yay!
$59 billion in 2022 alone. And then Exxon quietly announced it is ending its much-touted research into developing sustainable algae-based biofuels.
Aww.
Exxon has spent millions since 2009 boasting about its algae research in ads and investor presentations, which critics throughout have condemned as greenwashing. Accurately, it turns out. Environmental activist Bill McKibben asks, why didn't Exxon invest those millions in solar and wind energy? Because, he quipped, energy from the sun and wind are free forever, and that doesn't fit Exxon's business model.
Sounds about right. By the way, didn't we have a story just last week with BP doing the same thing, record profits, and then backing off of their climate targets?
Yes. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres cited the oil industry's record profits last year in calling for governments to end billions in fossil fuel subsidies doled out every year to the fossil fuel industry.
Despite all of their war profiteering?
Yes.
Go figure.
In his State of the World address, Guterres warned that on our current trajectory, we are headed toward a catastrophic 2.8 degrees Celsius temperature rise above pre-industrial levels. Guterres castigated the powerful oil industry for blocking the shift to clean energy.
If you cannot set a credible course for net zero, you should not be in business.
Yeah, they shouldn't be in business.
Finally, commercials during the 57th Super Bowl game appear to mark a cultural shift. There were only 4 automobile ads in total, and 3 of them were for electric cars, including one that made fun of range anxiety or the fear of running out of a battery charge. But streaming service Netflix went a different route with an ad from comedian Will Ferrell announcing an initiative to increase the visibility of electric vehicles by featuring EVs in film and television.
Legal borrowing authority and could hit the debt ceiling earlier than July. President Biden says he's talking with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
On March the 9th, I'm going to lay down my entire budget. How much I want to spend, how much we're going to do, everything from taxes cut and raised to programs cut and raised. Republicans should do the same thing.
The president says they will negotiate. Nikki Haley is joining the Republican race for president.
America is on a path of doubt, division, and self-destruction, a path of fading patriotism and weakening power. The stakes are nothing less than our survival.
The former UN ambassador and former South Carolina governor called President Biden and his fellow Democrats too liberal and insisted there's not a problem with racism in the U.S. as they contend. An autopsy report reveals the death of a man in Colorado who was handcuffed after a mental health team responded to a call of him walking into traffic last year has been ruled a homicide. The latest from Ukraine, the Russian Defense Ministry says its troops broke through 2 Ukrainian defense lines in the eastern Luhansk region and pushed back Ukrainian forces. This is AP News.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-452-5050. That's 1-800-452-5050. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-452-5050. That's 1-800-452-5050.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
A cyclone has killed at least 4 people in New Zealand.
Cyclone Gabrielle had struck the country's north on Monday and has brought more destruction to this nation of 5 million than any other weather event in decades. Police said over 1,000 people have been reported uncontactable in the North Island by Wednesday afternoon. The larger number could, though, be mostly explained by widespread disruptions to telecommunications and power. Emergency Management Minister Kieran McAnulty says more than 300 people have been rescued on Tuesday. Helicopters making at least 25 rescues of individuals and family groups on Wednesday. And McAnulty says teams are still carrying out rescues and land searches in a number of places. I'm Charles de la Desma.
A winter storm warning is in effect through tonight for much of northern Arizona and New Mexico. The National Weather Service is forecasting bitter cold conditions. Flagstaff, Arizona got about a foot of snow. I'm Ed Donahue, AP News.
It's that time of year again. No, not the holidays. Medicare open enrollment. And if you have questions about Medicare, you should talk to the local experts. Paul Barrich and Associate. Paul and his agents are certified with plans that are accepted by most of the medical groups in our area. Call 909-793-0385. Their services are free, and after 41 years in the business, their agents are trained to help you pick the plan that's right for you.
My name is Daniel Rudbari. I'm an attorney. I represent tenants against landlords. So if your landlord is making you live in substandard living conditions, bug infestation, cockroaches, rodents, mold, mildew, broken windows, lack of security, flooding, call me. You have rights. You can reach me at 877-384-9911. Again, I'm attorney Daniel Rudbari, and I represent tenants against landlords that refuse to make repairs and force tenants to live in substandard living conditions. So if you think you're living in a substandard living condition, call me, 877-384-9911. The call is free. It's a toll-free number, 877-384-9911, and the advice is free.
Come to Hooters, where there's no such thing as a party of one. Located with the 60 and the 215 meet in Riverside, near Merino Valley. For more info, Google Hooters Riverside.
There's only one thing you think of when you think of Hooters. Wings.
Wait, what?
With more styles, better flavors, and fresher wings, you could only be in the original American wing joint. Get them smoked, bacon-wrapped, original style, and now introducing new roasted wings. Roasted crispy to seal in the flavor and seal out half the calories. One taste and you'll think of nothing else.
We'll see about that.
Come to Hooters, where there's no such thing as a party of one. Located with the 60 and the 215 meet in Riverside, near Merino Valley. For more info, Google Hooters Riverside.
There's only one thing you think of when you think of Hooters. Hooters, the original American wing joint.
Redlands Aviation reminds employers that hiring veterans and transitioning military service men and women isn't just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. Veterans have outstanding leadership and elite technical skills that make them an asset to any organization. Make this year the year you hire smart and hire vets. That's from Redlands Aviation, where they are saluting our veterans, those currently serving, and remembering the families of those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Thank you for your service.
KCAA Radio, Loma Linda, where no listener is ever left behind.
You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show, hosted by Milan Vukovic, founder of the Tahibo Tea Club.
Welcome to the Tahibo Tea Club Radio Hour. My name is Milan Vukovic. I'm the founder of the Tahibo Tea Club. Without my father, John Vukovic, there would be no Tahibo Tea Club. My father was diagnosed with colon cancer that had spread to the pancreas in 1998 at the age of 86. He started receiving treatment at the Houston Medical Center, which is the biggest medical center in the world, bigger than Boston. Because the size of the tumor on my father's pancreas was the size of a half a brick, I was told that there wasn't anything they could do for my father and that I needed to put my father's affairs in order since he had about 2 months to live. So, of course, I started planning a funeral. I called our friends and family and told them how grave the situation was and told them that if they wanted to see Dad, they only had a couple of months, and they might want to do so now. One of the families that came to pay their last respects to my father came and brought Tahibo tea with them. They said Tahibo tea cured their brother from cancer. I looked at them incredulous, as if they were Martians or something. I mean, my dad was getting treated at the Houston Medical Center, and no one was saying anything other than to plan a funeral, and these people were telling me that the tea's going to cure my dad? But of course, I was polite to the people since they came to pay their respects. In any event, after they left, I cooked up the tea, and my father figured if he had 2 months to live, what's the difference if he's drinking the tea or water? He has to drink something anyway. So he's drinking the tea, and 2 months later, when they put him on a CAT scan machine, they thought their CAT scan machine was broken because they couldn't find a tumor on his pancreas that used to be the size of a half a brick. So they said to my father, you know, the hospital right next door here at the medical center also has a CAT scan machine. Since you already drank the contrast dye, we'll phone them and you can walk over and they'll take a picture so you don't have to come back and do it all over again next week when we get a machine fixed. So my father walked next door. They took a picture. They couldn't find any cancer either. My father is now 86 years old. He's been cancer-free for over 20 years. And not only is he cancer-free, he's in such good health, he takes care of my garden and even mows my lawn. I mean, I'd be embarrassed about it if he didn't enjoy doing it, and I know it's good for him. Our customers always get a kick out of it when they ask me how my dad's doing, and I tell them as long as he's mowing my lawn, he must be doing pretty good. The tea's certainly been a blessing in my family's life, and God willing, our tea will have the same benefits for you, your family and friends, as it has for mine and so many others. Not a week goes by that someone doesn't call in with a truly miraculous recovery. Bone cancer, brain cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, mesothelioma, leukemia, diabetes, you name it. And not a day goes by that someone doesn't call in with some type of a success, whether it's just beating toenail fungus. Well, toenail fungus may not be imminently life-threatening, but if you have it, you don't like it. The Tahibo tree is an amazing tree. It never gets sick, never gets infected, and never gets infested. As a result, the highest potency Tahibo comes from the inner bark of the tree where the arterial and vein system, called the xylem and the phloem, in the tree reside, which brings nutrients to the rest of the tree. And that's why we only harvest mature trees over 40 years old in the rainforest of Brazil. The harvest method we use is to semi-strip some outer bark to get to the inner bark without cutting down the tree and allowing the tree to heal itself so they can be harvested again. It's also the only tree in the world the fungus doesn't grow on. So as a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. These benefits go a long way to helping our immune system contend with a lot of things it normally has to contend with on a daily basis. Parasites would be something like stomach problems. Inflammation would be something like rheumatoid arthritis. Infection would be any infection from a tooth infection to a bladder infection. Viral would be something like herpes. Bacteria would be something like gum disease or stomach bacteria. And fungus would be something like toenail fungus or candida. But maybe more importantly, what the tea does is build the red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. Our immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer happens to die on oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate new cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for somebody fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as diabetes or cancer. In future programs, we'll discuss Tahibo tea versus AIDS, anemia, arthritis, asthma, bronchitis, other types of cancers, colitis, diabetes, diverticulitis, eczema, fungus, gastritis, gonorrhea, gout, HIV, impotence, infections, leukemia, lupus, Parkinson's, prostatitis, pyorrhea, rheumatism, ringworm, ulcers, virus, and yeast infections. One time a customer asked me, he said, boy, it sounds like the tea helps with everything. It does really help with a lot of different things, but for some things, for example, with the bones, calcium helps with the bones. The Tahibo helps with a lot of different things, but you need some other things also for a healthy diet. I'd like to talk a little about the proper preparation directions for Tahibo tea to be effective. Even though we call it tea, what you're actually preparing when you make it properly is a decoction. A decoction is just a fancy word for what our forefathers used to make when they used to take a root and cook it in order to release its beneficial properties. It's easy, but you don't steep it in hot water like regular leaf tea, but rather cook it like spaghetti. I'll tell you how easy it is to make just so you don't think you'll need a degree in physics, but you don't have to remember any of this because the directions, of course, are on the packages as well as in the literature you automatically receive with your order. You take a pot of water, bring it to a boil. Once the water is boiling, you toss in a tablespoon of tea for every 2 cups of boiling water. Cook it on high for 5 minutes, reduce the heat, and cook on simmer for an additional 15 minutes. Since our tea comes from the only tree in the world the fungus doesn't grow on, you can make a whole big batch, 10 or 20 cups at a time, leave it in the pot on the stove, and it'll stay good for 4 days without refrigeration. Put it in the fridge, and it'll stay good for 8 days with refrigeration, and you can drink it hot, room temperature, cold, or iced. The tea has a mild, pleasant flavor, kind of halfway between Lipton tea and green tea, but a little bit sweeter than either one of those. Our tea tastes so good that 95% of our customers drink it straight without putting anything else in it. Even teenagers drink it straight. So, you know it must taste pretty good. You can, however, add anything you want to the tea after you prepare it, such as lemon, for example. About the only thing we don't recommend to add to the tea is sugar. Not because it has any contraindications with our tea, but because sugar feeds virtually everything bad in our body, from fungus to diabetes to cancer. The other thing you can do to change the flavor and have some fun while cooking the tea, you can take any old fruit that you have on hand, like an apple, a pear, a peach, mango, whatever it is, slice it up, or take blueberries and crush them up and toss them into the boiling water at the same time you're tossing the tea in, and cook it with the tea. You can also take ginger or a cinnamon stick and cook it with the tea. And because the tea naturally has such a mild flavor, you'll immediately change the flavor to the fruit that you're using. This is especially useful when you're giving the tea to a child to drink, because an 8-year-old has not acquired a taste for any kind of tea, regardless how mild it tastes. Tahibo tea has no contraindications with any medications, so it can be taken on an empty stomach, a full stomach, with medications or without medications, and with or without other therapies. It also has no caffeine, so it can be drank all day and all night. In my family, we all drink it like water all day, every day. I only drink water 3 or 4 times a week when I get tired of drinking the tea.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Milan and more from the Tahibo Tea Club radio show in just a minute. But for now, here's a word from our sponsors.
You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 300 8-ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Tahibo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents, who are both now 86. For more information about Tahibo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.tahiboteaclub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Taheebo, and then continue with the word T and then the word club. So the complete site is www.tahibotclub.com or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Taheebo Tea Club's original Pure Pouty Arco Super Tea comes from the only tree in the world that fungus does not grow on. As a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TaheeboTeaClub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TaheeboTeaClub.com or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TaheeboTeaClub.com.
Welcome back. This is Milan Vukovic, founder of the Taheebo Tea Club. My father's case was a case of colon cancer that had metastasized to the pancreas. I'd like to tell you about another cancer case about a man from Chicago. In 2009, he was diagnosed with brain cancer, specifically lymphoma of the brain. They immediately started chemo and radiation treatments, but his cancer kept getting worse. The chemo and radiation were not working for him, and they were making him sicker by the day because they're not easy treatments. By January 2010, he was literally on his deathbed. A friend of his who had heard about the tea called us and said, go ahead and send the tea to him in Chicago, even though it's probably too late for our friend, but for $34.95, it's certainly worth a try. So we went ahead, sent the tea to him in Chicago. We didn't hear from anyone until about 5 months later, this lady from Texas called to order the tea. We asked her how she heard about the tea, and she said, you know, my husband and I are originally from Chicago, and about 5 months ago when we were back visiting, our good friend Nick was dying from brain cancer. He was in such bad shape that my husband and I looked at each other and thought he was going to pass away that week, so we might as well stay in Chicago so we don't have to come back again the next week for a funeral. Well, Nick got the tea about that time and started drinking it, and he started getting a little bit stronger. My husband and I went back to Texas, and now 5 months later, Nick is visiting us. He looks better than you or I, so whatever it is that he's drinking, we want to drink too. I want to tell you that Nick at that time was 60 years old, and once he beat the cancer, he was feeling so good he got bored staying at home, so he went back to work full-time, and he's been cancer-free and in good health now for over 8 years and still continues to work full-time. I want to shift gears now and talk about diabetes. Oftentimes I get the question, how long does it take for the tea to work? If the tea is going to help, it's going to work rather quickly. In my father's case, it eradicated the tumor in exactly 2 months. In Nick's case with the brain cancer, it was about 3 to 4 months. Now, with diabetes and with all of the conditions with the tea, there's a healing process that's involved. Now, with diabetes, it's very easy to tell that the tea is working. Let's say, for example, if a diabetic is taking on average 40 units of insulin daily. They continue to take their insulin and they start drinking a tea. Since they're measuring the blood sugar on a daily basis to know whether to take 35 units or 40 units or 45 units of insulin, which makes a big difference, they'll notice typically that in 2 weeks, instead of needing 40 units of insulin, they only need 30 units of insulin. In 4 weeks, they'll notice they only need 20 units of insulin. In 6 weeks, they'll only need 10 units of insulin. And in 2 months, they won't need insulin at all. So there's a healing process involved because the tea helps the body to heal itself. And with different conditions, there's different healing times that are involved. With infections, for example, a tooth infection, you can get rid of faster than you can with penicillin. You can get rid of a tooth infection in a week. And what happens with a tooth infection is you start drinking a tea. Well, let's say you have a tooth infection and your head is throbbing like in a cartoons, like a bomb that's about to explode. You take a drink of the tea, you hold it in your mouth for 2 minutes, the pain will immediately go away. You can't even get rid of the pain that quickly with a Vicodin. Now, if you stop drinking the tea at that point, you haven't knocked out enough bacteria, so the pain will come back in about 30 minutes. But you take another drink in about 30 minutes. If you take a drink of the tea, let's say 1 glass an hour for 4 hours, you'll completely get rid of the pain. But you haven't still knocked out all the bacteria, so if at that point you stop drinking the tea, the pain will come back in about 3 days. So you need to continuously drink the tea for 1 week in order to get rid of the pain. Kind of like when you go to a dentist and the dentist says, here's the penicillin, take 2 a day. Even though you're going to feel great in a day, you have to drink it for 10 days or so in order to completely knock out the bacteria. Same thing with the tea. You need to completely drink the tea until you knock out the bacteria, which typically in case of a tooth infection takes about a week to 10 days. In other infections, it takes a little bit longer. So, for example, with a bladder infection or a urinary tract infection, it's common to take about 2 weeks to completely get rid of the infection, but you get relief like within 24 hours so that you don't have the pain associated. Now, talking about urinary tract infections, there are folks that get chronic urinary tract infections. And what happens is they go to the doctor gives them antibiotics, they drink the antibiotics for 2 weeks, and the infection goes away. A month later, the infection comes back, they go back to the doctor, they get some more antibiotics, and in 2 weeks the pain goes away. And what happens is they keep cycling on and off the antibiotics, which obviously is not a good thing to do, on an ongoing regular basis. On the other hand, they could just drink the tea. The tea is great for them for a lot of other health benefits as well. In 2 weeks, they'll be rid of their urinary tract infection, and they won't get the infection back.
You're listening to the Taheebo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 300 8-ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Taheebo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents, who are both now 86. For more information about Taheebo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.taheboteaclub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Taheebo, and then continue with the word tea, and then the word club. So the complete site is www.taheboteaclub.com, or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Taheebo Tea Club's original Pure Pouty Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TaheboTeaClub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TaheboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TaheboTeaClub.com.
Our tea has no contraindications with any foods, supplements, or medications. It's naturally caffeine-free. It can be drank in any quantity throughout the day by anyone over the age of 3. Since a baby's nutritional needs are unique, it's not recommended for babies or for women who are breastfeeding or pregnant. The tea has a number of natural benefits. Some of these include helping to control blood sugar, cleansing the blood of cholesterol, and controlling high blood pressure. If you're taking medications for any conditions, please keep taking your medication until your measurements are at a level where your doctor has told you to reduce the amount of medication. For example, if you're a diabetic, you should be taking your blood sugar level daily in order to know your correct dose of insulin. Now, besides people, the tea is also fantastic for animals. Everything from dogs to horses. One day we got a call from a customer who wanted to purchase the tea for their champion show dog who developed a skin disorder and for whom antibiotics had not worked. Exactly 3 weeks later, the customer called again to tell us the skin had completely cleared up and the dog was back at work as a model. I asked how they got the dog to drink the tea, and they said they simply replaced the water in his bowl with the tea. So it turns out that the dogs actually really like the tea. About 3 months later, another customer called and asked if we knew that dogs preferred our tea over water. We told him we'd heard that dogs like our tea, but why did he think the dogs preferred the tea over water? He said he had 3 dogs, one of which was sick. Since he had multiple dogs, he also had multiple water bowls, and he'd replaced the water in one of the bowls with tea, and that bowl was gone first every day. So since the dogs obviously were the only ones drinking out of the bowls, he knew that the dogs preferred the tea over water. So it's really easy to get a dog to drink the tea. All you do is swap out the water with the tea, and the dogs will immediately start drinking it. If by chance they don't, all you do is put 2-3 ice cubes in with the tea, and the dog will think it's dessert, and by tomorrow he'll be asking you for the tea. We have a lot of cases with dogs. One time, a very funny incident, a lady called in and said, she says, my friend has a Chihuahua, and she heard that your tea was good for dogs, and she started giving the tea to her Chihuahua, and her Chihuahua doesn't shed hair anymore. So since I have a Chihuahua, she gave the tea to me, and I'm giving it to my dog, and I'll be darned, my Chihuahua doesn't shed hair anymore. And I don't know anything about Chihuahuas. We have a Siberian Husky, so I said, did Chihuahuas really shed a lot? She says, oh yeah, they typically shed like crazy. So about an hour later, a customer from Dallas called in, and I'm talking to her on the phone, and I says, I learned something new about our own tea today, and I told her the Chihuahua story. And she says to me, you didn't know that? And I said, well, no, I don't know anything about Chihuahuas. She says, well, you never seen me, she says, because I'm in Dallas, she says, but I've been a customer of yours now for about 2 years, and before I started drinking your tea, I have long hair. Before I started drinking your tea, I used to lose a lot of hair when I was brushing my hair and when I was showering. Since I started drinking your tea, I hardly lose any hair at all, and not only that, my fingernails are strong like concrete. I'd like to shift gears again, if I can, and talk a little bit more about infections. A man went to visit a dentist for a tooth infection. The dentist gave him a prescription for penicillin to knock the bacteria out and a prescription for Vicodin to kill the pain. He sped over to the drugstore, picked up the prescriptions, and couldn't wait to get home to take the pills since his head was throbbing as if it was going to explode. On his way home, he called a friend from his car and was explaining to him what a world of hurt he was in. The friend told him to swing by his place and he'd get rid of the pain in exactly 2 minutes. He was told that not even the Vicodin would kick in that fast, and that he really wanted to get home to get rid of the pain as soon as possible and take the Vicodin and the penicillin. Well, the friend said, you've already picked up the pills from the pharmacy, so you've got them with you. If the Tahibo tea I'm going to give you doesn't work, then start popping the pills. He went over to his friend's house. His friend had him take a drink of the tea and told him to hold in his mouth over the tooth that was infected for a couple of minutes before swallowing. The pain went away. He explained to his friend, though, that until enough bacteria was knocked out, which requires drinking 5 or 6 glasses of tea in the span of 3 or 4 hours, that the pain would come back in about 30 minutes. But since he's drinking the tea during this time anyway, to simply take a drink of the tea and hold it in his mouth again for 2 minutes before swallowing, and the pain will go away. Unbelievably, this is exactly what happened.
Want to learn more? Check out our podcasts only on the iHeartRadio app. The Tahibo Tea Club radio show is now available on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just open up your iHeartRadio app and search Tahibo. TAHEEBO, and start streaming today. Our podcast will let you listen to people throughout the country who have shared their real-life stories on the successful results they've had using Tahibo Tea. The Tahibo Tea Club radio show, now available as a podcast on the iHeartRadio app. You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of the tea is $34.95, and 1 pound makes 308 ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Tahibo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents, who are both now 86. For more information about Tahibo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.tahiboteaclub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Tahibo, and then continue with the word tea, and then the word club. So the complete site is www.tahiboteaclub.com, or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, since our tea comes from the only tree in the world the fungus doesn't grow on, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. And so included with every order, we automatically include literature about the tea because typically folks will primarily buy the tea for one primary reason, whether it's cancer or whether it's diabetes or whether it's an infection or whatever the case is. And then oftentimes they'll call back and say, this is really truly unbelievable. This also helped me with my rheumatoid arthritis, or something of that nature, or something different. One time I got a phone call from a man in Florida who was a customer of ours, and he says, Milan, there's something you didn't tell me about the tea. And I go, really? What's that? So, well, he says, I'm an older man. I have toenail fungus. My toenail fungus is completely gone. My toes are now the only beautiful thing in my body. And I go, well, of course, the tea naturally has antifungal properties. It comes from the only tree in the world that fungus doesn't grow on. And he says, well, that's fantastic. And I said, well, yeah, because, I mean, the only thing we talked about when you called in was with regards to your lung cancer. And as it happened, the man had lung cancer for 18 years. And he was receiving radiofrequency ablation for his lung cancer. And when he first drank, and after 18 years, he says, the ablation works. He says, you can smell your own flesh burning. He says, literally, he says, and after 18 years, there's nothing left on my lungs to burn out, he says. So he says, I don't really believe in things like your tea, he says, but it doesn't cost very much, so go ahead and send me the tea. So we did. And he called back about 3 weeks later, and he says, if somebody would have told me that a $35 bag of tea would get rid of my pain in 5 days, I'd have said you're crazy, because I was taking 10 narcotic pills daily to mitigate the pain, and I never really did. And after 5 days, my pain went away, and I was telling my friends that this is unbelievable. I'm drinking this tea, and the pain associated with my cancer is gone. And my friend said, oh, man, it's got to be in your head. He says, that's why I waited 3 weeks to give you a call back. It's not in my head. The pain's gone. If you'd like more information about Tahibo tea, or you'd like to talk to us, just give us a call. We're located in Los Angeles. Our office hours are 9 to 5 California time, Monday through Saturday. Our telephone number is 818-610-8088. And of course, you can also get a lot more information on our website, www.tahiboteaclub.com. TahiboTeaClub.com. And the only tricky thing is to spell Tahibo, which is spelled T-A-H-E-E-B-O, and then continue with the word T-T-E-A, Club, CLUB.com. So the complete website is www.TahiboTeaClub.com, and you'll get more information there. And of course, we welcome you to give us a call because, as you can tell, we learned a lot about our own products from customers calling us in with regards to their dogs, with regards to toenail fungus, with regards to diabetes, and with regards to all type of different cancer cases. And once again, our telephone number is area code 818-610-8088.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Milan and much more from the Tahibo Tea Club radio show in just a minute. But first, a word from our sponsors.
You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 308 ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Tahibo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents who are both now 86. For more information about Tahibo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Tahibo, and then continue with the word tea, and then the word club. So the complete site is www.TahiboTeaClub.com, or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com.
Welcome back to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. Our tea is effective against all types of cancers because it works through the bloodstream. And of course, cancer cells need blood to get to them just as healthy cells do. The big difference being is that cancer cells work in an anaerobic environment or live in an anaerobic environment, which means they live in the absence of oxygen and they get their energy from sugar instead of from oxygen like healthy cells do. But specifically now, I'd like to devote our attention to prostate cancer because 80% of men are going to contract prostate cancer by the time they turn 80 years old. And from the cancer cases that we have, of course, because so many men get prostate cancer, we have more successful prostate cancer cases than any other cases just because they're the most prevalent. I'd like to tell you about a couple of those cases. I got a phone call a couple of weeks ago from a man in Phoenix, and he says to me, he says, I don't know if you remember speaking to me 4 months ago or not, he says, but I had prostate cancer that was aggressively metastasizing through my whole body, my bones, everywhere. And you told me to drink at least 8 glasses of Tahibo tea a day or more, as much as I could humanly stand. So I literally took that to heart, and I was drinking a gallon a day, which is 16 cups or more, he says. I was drinking so much of your tea that sometimes I was drinking a tea and having to go pee at the same time. But I'll tell you what, in 4 months, I don't have any more cancer. Now, in the informational literature that we automatically include with every order, it says, please give us a call to tell us about your case so that we can help more people. Well, one day I got a call from a man in Beaumont, Texas. And he says to me, he says, I've been a customer of yours, he says, for 5 years now, he says, and in your booklets it says to give you a call to tell you about your case, so I'm calling to give you an update. I go, fantastic, please tell me. He says, 5 years ago I had prostate cancer and my PSA level was 1200. So now, I'm thinking, I don't understand this man's Southern Texas accent from Beaumont, Texas, so I say to him, you mean 120? Because we'd never had anybody previous to that had more than 550. He says, no, 1,200. My PSA level was so high, they didn't want to give me any treatment. And he says, they're going to give you treatment. He says, whether it's going to work or not, just to collect on the money. So I had no other choices, and I started drinking your tea. And not only am I still alive 5 years later, my PSA level is now 1.25. So last October, a man from Saskatchewan, Canada calls up, and he says to me he's got prostate cancer. So I'm telling him about the Beaumont prostate cancer case, the 1200 case, and he says, that's nothing. He says, my prostate PSA level is 2100. I said, oh my God, you have to promise to call me back. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and write down your name and number on a yellow sticky and stick it on my computer. If I don't hear back from you, I'm going to call you myself to find out what happened. Well, a month or so ago, we got an email from him, and he says, I started drinking your tea in October, and I'm getting my PSA checked every 2 months, and at the 2-month mark, my PSA level dropped from 2100 to 100. At the 4-month mark, my PSA level dropped from 100 to 10. And now, at the 6-month mark, my PSA level is 1.75. So it's truly gratifying to hear from customers on an ongoing basis, and very humbling because all we do is harvest the original tea. We don't put any fillers in it, and it's just as God had meant the plant to be. Now, the only secret to success with our tea, and the great thing is it tastes great, is volume of consumption. So you want to make certain that if you are fighting a potentially life-threatening disease, it's a race. You need to beat it before it beats you. So you want to be drinking the tea like water, or instead of water, 8 glasses a day or more, which is easy to do since it has a really mild, pleasant flavor. You can take it on an empty stomach, a full stomach, with medication, without medication, and it doesn't have any caffeine, so you can drink it all day, all night.
Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pouty Arco Super Tea comes from the only tree in the world that fungus does not grow on. As a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com.
Welcome back to the Tahibo Tea Club radio program. All of the cases on our radio program are actual cases from individuals such as my father, such as customers. And one of the reasons that we encourage you to phone us with your cases is
it's the only way that we can help more people, because people with brain cancer want to hear about brain cancer. People with diabetes want to hear about diabetes. People with toenail fungus want to hear about toenail fungus. Today, we have visiting with us one of our customers, and all of the cases are personal to the people, and because they do involve medicine, we do not release the names of the people. Of course, my father is my father, so you're also welcome to meet him, and you know who he is. But otherwise, unless somebody tells us, please go ahead and broadcast our name, if we're talking about a case, we don't do that. So it's the same thing when you give us a call and you talk about your case, we won't be giving out your name. So we have a customer here that is visiting us today, and she came in a couple of weeks ago and bought the tea for a coworker of hers who I believe had fourth-stage prostate cancer. Can you tell us a little bit about your coworker's prostate cancer?
Yes, his doctor diagnosed him with the fourth stage of prostate cancer approximately 4 months ago, and they have him on chemotherapy. They're giving him 2 shots of chemotherapy twice a month, and his PSA test was off the charts, and he was looking for a remedy to help him to live, because the doctors did not give him a good diagnosis about this prostate cancer disease. So I gave him a tea. I bought the tea for him approximately a month ago and had him to try it, and because he was doing the chemotherapy.
Can you also tell us what symptoms that he had and the effect of chemotherapy?
The symptoms he had was he was really internally, he was feeling very, very sick, and he had a lot of pain internally in his body, in his abdominal region. And he just felt very, very sick and nauseous, and so that's what prompted him to go to the doctor. And the chemotherapy that they started him on, which were the 2 shots a month, were making him very, very sick and nauseous. And so the tea, the Tahibo tea that I gave to him, and he started boiling and drinking, he was up to 3 cups a day that he was able to drink. He just had an appointment with his doctor this week, and he told the doctor that before his pain level was approximately at least 200. That was his level of pain that he was bearing in his body, and it was very painful for him and excruciating. And with the appointment this week, he told his doctor that his pain level is now between 5 and 6. So it has dramatically decreased. So with the pain decreasing, that means his body is becoming more and more well.
Well, that is fantastic, and that's exactly what the tea does. The very first thing that the people notice that are taking the tea for cancer is that the tea gets rid of pain virtually immediately. And when I say virtually immediately, we're talking about anywhere between 1 and 10 days, on average in 5 days, and we're talking about even people with really severe pain who are taking 10 or 20 narcotic pills daily. So we're looking forward to the results of your coworker's appointment from his doctor that I'm sure he'll receive this coming week, because if the pain has been reduced, then the next steps in terms of cancer eradication are also going to be reduced. Now, a lot of times on our cases, we get calls from people that are diagnosed with different types of cancers, and oftentimes they are only given maybe 3 or 4 months to live, and they call us up and say, I realize we're all going to pass away at some point, but I just need some time to be able to put my kids through school, because I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. So if I can just get them through school 10 more years, and then I'll be at peace. Now we're in Los Angeles, and you work here in Los Angeles, and you told us about an interesting reason that your coworker really wants to live to be able to help the community.
Yes, he desires to live because he has been instrumental in the city of Los Angeles in assisting with helping to clean our community and rid it of undesirable behavior and activity from gang members. And he has been very instrumental in assisting other young youth in that community and having them to be steered in the right direction and giving them a mentor as himself to be able to encourage them to go to school and to further their education and make something beautiful out of their lives.
Well, I tell you, our prayers are with us, and if you have a moment and you'd like to say a prayer, I'd like to join you in for a prayer to help your coworker and all of the people that are fighting serious diseases.
Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, Lord God, we ask you right now to look on all of those that are sick and afflicted and diseased in their bodies. And we ask you, Lord, to utilize this tea, get the word out to the people that are sick and feeling hopeless, that they don't have any hope to live. We ask, God, that you will allow this tea to be purchased by them and to be utilized by them on a consistent basis, and allow that tea to initiate healing and restoration in their bodies. And we speak and decree that wholeness and wellness will be manifest in every body. And we pray, Lord Jesus, that they will have a testimony to your honor and glory of healing and restoration in their bodies. And we thank you, Lord, for a great move of your Holy Spirit in this earth, God, to proclaim the gospel to these precious souls and to bring them into the saving knowledge of you, Lord Jesus, and save their bodies from metastasizing and from toxification. And we thank you, Lord, for cleaning out the body through this Tahibo tea. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, thank you very much. We hope to have you visit with us again. And, God willing, the tea will do for your coworker the same as it's done for so many other people.
Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau de Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com.
Thank you for listening. The Tahibo Tea Club is a labor of love, life, and health. We only sell pure Pau d'Arco bark to make Tahibo tea. After my father's miraculous recovery from colon pancreatic cancer, I was buying the tea where I could find it and when I could find it. Problem was, even here in the United States, the tea wasn't easy to find, and when I did find it, oftentimes the quality was poor, sometimes it wasn't even the right tea, and invariably the directions to prepare it were wrong. Steep it. Well, you're not going to get very much if you soak wood for 5 minutes.